big and very focused coming up here in Barbados. It's the University of the West Indies Pan-African Colloquium. And here to talk about that is John Howell, no stranger to Morning Barbados. We've talked several subjects before in the past. Always good to see you, and Happy New Year. And our other guest this morning is Dr. Chenzira Davis Kahina of UWI, and
actually of the University of the Virgin Islands.
University of the Virgin Islands. Okay, all right. Well, welcome. Good to see you.
Welcome to Barbados. Thank you.
Talk about this colloquium and its significance at this time in our history.
Well, primarily I want to say thank you really to the organizers here at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill, Barbados, because it's through their foresight that this particular conference is happening not only in the second year of the UN-designated International Decade for People of African Descent, but also on the 50th anniversary of Barbados. So this is like very timely, and it allows us to discuss some of the themes on the heroines and heroes of Pan-Africanism, the Back to Africa movements, etc. And it was a fantastic address last night by the Honorable Sir Dr. Hilary Beckles that really gave the focus of global Africa and the way in which Pan-Africanism really settles right inside of that. So we're very excited. I'm honored to be a delegate, and I'll be presenting tomorrow morning.
What is your presentation going to deal with?
My presentation is going to focus on diaspora, indigenous African affairs, so that we can begin to reclaim and resurrect our awareness, our understanding of who we are as ancestral African people within the Caribbean, within the Americas, and throughout the world. So, and of course, in 15 minutes. So it's going to be very concise. Yeah. Very concise.
Okay, so John, you are with
the Pan-African Coalition organization.
Right. And also, do you feel that Barbadians and Caribbean people as a whole, perhaps, are becoming more receptive to these ideas of learning more about Pan-Africanism and, in a sense, learning more about ourselves? What kind of reaction do you often get?
Well, sometimes you get a negative reaction, but more than likely, I think we're making progress. We're making progress because if you can look at what is actually on the agenda now as it relates to government is a republic, getting rid of these, vestiges of slavery and taking on a whole new leg. And I'm glad that Barbados is equally pretty much in the forefront of Pan-Africanism globally, because here we're having a conference in Barbados, we're having 70 presenters from around the world. That is a major contribution that Barbados is making, to the liberation of our people.
You suggested that the whole movement is gaining acceptance.
Yes.
But are you making any real progress though? That's one of the things, because there's so much to learn about our ancestry, and it only becomes relevant when we want to make a point. And it doesn't touch us at the level of the heart enough. How do you get to that point?
I would go as far as to say, while UWI Cave Hill Barbados is at the center of organizing this, they're also working with an organization, PanAfstrag, in addition to your Commission on Pan-African Affairs, under the direction of Dr. Derek Murray. So there's several different layers. I think what Dr. Frederick Oceang at UWI has established, along with some of the other scholars at UWI, in concert with PanAfstrag, and I need to make sure I say that correctly, the Pan-African Strategic and Policy Research Group. They're based in Nigeria, however, under the direction of General Ashola Williams. It's a very different approach, so it's very practical. So the idea is to focus on things that affect the arts, things that affect economics, things that affect commerce, things that affect trade. And of course, there's a very common thread, a quiet thread, but a very common thread on spirituality, so that we know how to respect one another when we're speaking about these issues that create a certain type of trauma, and how to address the psychological trauma in a very productive way.
Right. It sometimes feels to me like there's some separation, right? There's the Pan-Africanists, and then there's the rest of us. I'm being serious. You know what I mean? And it seems to me, even in the way we are raising our children today, we do so in a more westernized way in terms of how we're raising our children. Because I don't know if it's because we're even doing it consciously, it's almost subconsciously, we feel that in doing so, that we're preparing them for a more universal, you see what I mean?
Yes.
Awareness and being able to fit in with the rest of the world. Okay. What's your response to that?
It's interesting you say that. I am a mother of 7 children.
Wow.
So in addition to completing my graduate studies, as my children grew with me, I've been very fortunate to embrace my Caribbean upbringing. I grew up in the Dominican Republic, yeah? But I was very clear on my African ancestry. My father's Kiskeya, my mother has some French. So we're kind of like really Caribbean people in that mix. And living in the island of St. Croix, which is the cultural capital of the Virgin Islands, on the U.S. side, what we've been able to see is that unless we modify and institutionalize this global African universalism for our children and our institutions, from pre-K forward, from nursery more correctly forward, it will not change. So there will still be that Pan-Africanism and then everybody else. But we're really all Pan-Africanists because we're all part of this African experience. So whether your African experience is on the indigenosity piece, whether your African experience is on the westernized piece, as you reference it, it takes on a very different scope in the 21st century. It's not going to be Pan-Africanism of Blyden or even Henry Sylvester Williams. It's going to be a very different, more engaging, more productive, and definitely more global experience. So I'm excited about this opportunity. Thank you.
Who are some of the other Pan-Africanists of yesteryear that you're going to be focusing on?
My list is long. I probably should have brought my presentation, but it's going to include, of course, persons like Marcus Garvey. I mean, right here you have persons like Israel Lavelle, you've got, Bobby Clark, you've got David Commission in contemporary times, of course, Sir Hilary Beckles, and I have to speak of Blyden, I have to speak of Hubert Harrison, of course, W.B. Du Bois, and then in having that conversation, I have to forward it into that conversation of it being inclusive of the women. Because we're very quiet when we speak of Mary McLeod McKinnon, not knowing that she financed the UNIA. Most of us just knew her as an educator.
Yeah.
We don't talk about some of the other, Henrietta Vinton Davis, we don't speak of some of those women. We don't speak of some of the power, Shirley Graham Dubois. I mean, there's so many names, and of course going into the ancestral women, Queen Defile in Haiti, speaking of the Naganani in Jamaica. I mean, you have to speak of these persons that are the contributors from ancient times to present. So it's going to be a very interesting part, and I always highlight the sister who I thought was going to be able to meet with us today as well, is Sister Dr. Sandra Richards at UWI, one of your very own sisters here, and she's been instrumental in helping many other women understand our role in Pan-Africanism, because we are the mothers and we are the backbone of the nation. So if we do not get it together, then we cannot complain if it's them and us, when it should really be our families speaking as one, yes?
John, how do we use this event going on now in Barbados to gain some momentum and further traction for the movement?
One of the things I would like to do is to invite Barbadians to come out and hear people from around the world and see their perspective on Pan-Africanism and how they intend to take this thing forward, so that we can link in, we can make the necessary linkages, all right? So that we can, for example, look into doing trade with Africa. Africa is a very rich continent, the richest continent. And there are people here from Nigeria, which is a very rich nation. How do we, make those linkages so that we can move forward as a people?
Right.
And just
And when is the next event and what time? And
it is today at 9 a.m. and it's going to be going through until perhaps 9 p.m. tonight.
Right.
And tomorrow, and tomorrow as well.
Yes, and there'll be a very, very engaging roundtable this evening in the Roy Marshall
complex with Dr. Ralph Gonzalez coming in from St. Vincent Roy.
Yes.
So it's going to be very interesting.
And then tomorrow afternoon for the closing plenary, it'll be facilitated by Dr. Horace Campbell, who is, a Caribbean elder, but currently a professor at Syracuse University. So there'll be some very wonderful commentary, and we hope you're able to come.
well, thanks for the invitation. We certainly hope that Barbadians will respond to it as well. Dr. Kahina from the University of the Virgin Islands and John Howell. Always good to see you both. Thank you very much for